If vibration is not a mistake, not a trick of the heart, but something real, something ancient, something that belongs to the soul, then what? There are women who carry this presence, not loud, not obvious, but undeniable. Their eyes speak of landscapes you've never seen, yet somehow recognize. Their silence carries weight, like a language beyond words. They move differently, as if guided by a rhythm older than time. Carl Jung once wrote that within us lives a memory deeper than any single life, a collective unconscious, a place where symbols, patterns, archetypes live on, flowing through generations, waiting to be recognized. And some women live close to that source. They don't chase it. They are it. You can sense it when you meet them, though you may not understand why. It's not romance, not fantasy. It's the way the soul speaks, quietly, but unmistakably. Maybe you felt it too, that you don't quite belong to this rushing world, that you hunger not for things, but for meaning, that you see connections others overlook. If so, this story is for you. Not a list of traits to copy, but a mirror, a reminder of the woman with an old soul. And in her reflection, you may discover your own. Stay with me until the end, because what you'll hear may name something you've always felt, but never dared to put into words. The hunger begins quietly, not for food, not for status, but for something the world cannot hand you. Every morning she wakes with a question pressing against her chest. What does this all mean? For most, the question is background noise, easy to drown in work, in money, in comfort. But for her, it is oxygen. Without meaning, she cannot breathe. She tries the usual paths, school, career, relationships, and yet, nothing satisfies for long. Every success feels strangely hollow. Every achievement fades too quickly. This is the mark of an old soul. She does not crave the trophies that society parades in front of her. Her hunger is older, deeper. It comes not from ego, but from essence. Carl Jung called this the process of individuation, becoming who you truly are beneath the layers of conditioning. Most people live their whole lives without ever peeling back those layers. But the woman with an old soul cannot ignore the pull. The search begins almost against her will. She finds herself drawn to philosophy, to psychology, to traditions that reach beyond the ego. She reads Jung and whispers, "Yes, that's me." Not because she wants to sound wise, but because the words describe landscapes she has already walked in silence. The world calls it strange, impractical, too deep, too intense. But she cannot turn it off, because this hunger is not optional. It is the soul itself calling her back. And once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. Once you taste it, nothing else will do. This is how the awakening begins. Not in a flash of light, but in a slow, steady fire that refuses to go out. And from this fire, she will be led into places that feel both foreign and strangely familiar. Have you ever stood somewhere and felt like you'd been there before? Not just déjà vu, deeper than that. A wave of recognition, a sudden ache in your chest, as if the stones beneath your feet knew your name. For the woman with an old soul, this happens often. She steps into a landscape and something inside her whispers, "I know this place." It could be ancient ruins. It could be a cathedral in a forgotten city. It could be a quiet forest at dawn. And tears come, not from memory of a trip or a story told, but from a memory beyond memory. Not nostalgia, but resonance. Carl Jung would call this an archetypal memory, not yours alone, but belonging to the collective unconscious. A pattern etched so deeply into humanity that when you encounter it, your soul recognizes it instantly. Maybe she feels a deep pull toward Celtic rituals, or a sacred hush during a Japanese tea ceremony, or a strange familiarity when reading indigenous wisdom. She doesn't approach these with casual curiosity. They feel like home, as if a part of her, long exiled, suddenly breathes again. This is not about past lives. It is not fantasy. It is the timeless resonance of symbols, traditions, and landscapes that belong to all of us. And yet, some souls feel them more clearly. When she encounters these places, she relaxes, as though her spirit had been holding its breath, and at last, it exhales. Others may shrug it off as coincidence. She cannot, because the recognition runs too deep. And in those moments of recognition, the old soul remembers that she belongs not just to this life, not just to this culture, but to something much older, something that stretches across centuries, something that waits patiently for her to notice. And when she notices, she is changed. Her compassion is not learned in classrooms, not polished through moral effort. It flows, like water from a hidden spring. When she sees pain in another, she doesn't just notice it, she feels it. Not in a dramatic way, not as a performance, but as if the boundary between her body and the world is thinner. Most people keep suffering at arm's length. They say, "That's not my problem." But for the woman with an old soul, there is no such separation. She knows, in her bones, that what wounds one, wounds all. This sensitivity is gift and burden. Gift, because her empathy comforts those around her. People feel seen, even when they can't find words. Children trust her. Strangers open up. She becomes the one others call when their world collapses. But it is also heavy, because she cannot easily turn away. She feels the tremors of collective suffering that others ignore, the grief beneath the news story, the loneliness hidden in a neighbor's smile. And sometimes, she carries more than she should. The weight exhausts her. The tears she never shows in public fall in solitude. Carl Jung spoke of the soul's permeability, that some are more porous, more open to what lies beneath the surface. The old soul woman embodies this permeability. Her compassion is not choice, it is her nature. And so she learns, not to numb, not to harden, but to root herself deeper, so that she can feel without drowning, so that she can give without breaking. Because compassion is not weakness. It is the raw strength of someone who refuses to shut down, someone who chooses, again and again, to keep her heart open. And it is this openness, this deep, steady heart, that gives rise to something else, a calm that cannot be shaken, even when the world trembles. Storms come for everyone. Crises, betrayals, sudden losses. Most of us panic. We scramble, we cling, we break. But she stands differently. Not because she is cold, not because she doesn't feel, but because she knows storms always pass. When the world tilts, her center does not. When others spin in chaos, she becomes stillness. This stillness is not indifference. It is wisdom born of watching, born of understanding that every wave, no matter how violent, eventually collapses into calm. Carl Jung called this the transcendent function, the capacity to hold opposites without collapsing. Hope and despair, light and dark, gain and loss. She can hold them both side by side without rushing to escape. And because she holds this tension, others feel safe near her. They turn to her without knowing why. Friends in crisis call her at midnight. Co-workers seek her steady presence when everything unravels. She doesn't preach. She doesn't offer shallow comfort. Her being alone carries reassurance. As if her silence whispers, yes, it hurts, but it will not destroy you. This calm is not fragile. It does not waver with each disaster. It roots itself in something deeper, the soul's memory, that we are more than circumstances. Of course, she still feels pain. Her heart still aches. But she has learned to sit inside the ache without being consumed by it. She has learned that grief does not erase strength. It refines it. And so she becomes the eye of the storm, not untouched by winds, but unmoved at the core. It is this rare steadiness that marks her path as different. And from this still center, she begins to see what others cannot yet see. Patterns, shifts, futures stirring in the dark. She sees before others see. It's not prediction in the Hollywood sense. It's not fortune-telling. It's sensitivity. Carl Jung believed that great cultural shifts begin in the collective unconscious. They show themselves first in symbols, in dreams, in art, and in the intuitions of people who are tuned to that deeper frequency. The woman with an old soul is one of them. She feels currents moving beneath the surface of society long before they break into the open. She notices the restlessness, the quiet dissatisfaction, the hints of change gathering like storm clouds. When she speaks of these things, most dismiss her. They laugh. They call her strange, dramatic, too intense. Because they cannot see what she sees. Not yet. Years later, when her vision proves true, no one remembers she spoke it first. By then, it's common knowledge. By then, it feels obvious. But the pioneer rarely receives recognition. And so she carries the loneliness of vision. To walk ahead of the collective means to walk alone. She knows this. And still, she cannot unsee what she sees. It isolates her. She learns to keep her words guarded, to share only with those who are ready. For those who are not, resist. This is the paradox. Her gift connects her to humanity's deepest patterns, and at the same time, separates her from ordinary belonging. But she accepts this distance, because walking ahead is not about being admired. It's about being true to the sight that was given to her. And when the vision feels too heavy, when the loneliness cuts deep, she returns to something she cannot live without. The quiet, the stillness, the sacred refuge of solitude. Solitude is not escape, not weakness, not failure. For her, solitude is nourishment, as essential as water, as sacred as breath. The world moves fast, too fast. People chase noise, chase distraction, chase endless stimulation. But what energizes them drains her. Crowded conversations, shallow chatter, the endless hum of a world that never pauses. These do not feed her, they deplete her. So she steps away. Not because she doesn't care, not because she can't connect, but because in silence she returns to herself. In solitude she hears the whisper of her soul again, the voice drowned by obligation, expectation, performance. The voice that says, "This is who you are." Remember, others may worry she is lonely, but she knows the difference between loneliness and sacred aloneness. Loneliness feels empty. Sacred solitude feels full, full of clarity, full of presence, full of peace. Here she reads, reflects, creates. She breathes without mask, without role, without performance. And when she emerges, she carries new strength, ready again to face a noisy world. This rhythm is not optional. Without solitude, she loses herself. With solitude, she remembers. Carl Jung wrote that the soul thrives when given space to integrate. Time alone is not running from life. It is returning to the deepest life within. The old soul woman understands this instinctively. She protects her alone time as sacred, because only here does she touch the still point that never changes. And from that still point, she begins to see the world differently. She sees through the illusions that keep others busy. She begins to loosen her grip on what the world insists matters most: possessions, titles, accumulation. She has tried it. The buying, the chasing, the gathering of possessions that promise happiness. And every time the thrill fades, the shine dulls, the emptiness returns. For the woman with an old soul, things are heavy. Objects feel temporary, props borrowed for a short play. She cannot pretend they hold the meaning everyone claims. Carl Jung wrote that the soul knows what cannot be carried beyond this life, and the old soul feels this truth in her bones. Status, trophies, wealth, none of it satisfies the hunger of the spirit. This doesn't mean she rejects beauty. It doesn't mean she lives in poverty. No, she delights in simplicity. A sunset moves her more than a diamond. A heartfelt conversation feeds her more than a lavish dinner. The laughter of a child gives her more joy than applause from a crowd. She has learned, what lasts is not what you can hold in your hands. It's what you carry in your heart. Wisdom, authenticity, love. The world tells her she should want more money, more recognition, more things. But she has released the illusion that happiness can be bought. When others run after the next prize, she slows down. She savors. She notices essence beneath appearance, meaning beneath decoration. And because she is free from the weight of possessions, she moves lighter. She invests not in accumulation, but in experience. Not in owning, but in being. Her treasure is inner growth. Her wealth is authenticity. Her abundance is depth. And perhaps this is why she feels such ease with those at the two ends of life, the young and the old, where material concerns fade and soul speaks louder. Children and elders, two ends of life, both close to the mystery. And the woman with an old soul feels at home with them. With children, she does not speak down. She doesn't see them as empty vessels waiting to be filled. She sees them as complete beings. Small bodies, yes, but vast souls. Children notice it too. They sense she sees them truly, not as projects, not as distractions, but as who they already are. So they open to her. They share their questions, their wild imaginations, the thoughts they hide from adults who laugh too quickly. She listens, and in their eyes she remembers something. The innocence, the unfiltered connection to wonder. Jung called it the eternal child archetype, puer aeternus, a symbol of purity, curiosity, and creative spirit before society builds its walls. At the other end, elders. She honors their stories. She feels the weight of their wisdom, and she recognizes the nearness of the veil, that quiet awareness of returning to the great mystery. Most rush past the elderly, unwilling to face aging, unwilling to face mortality. But she leans in. She finds comfort there, resonance there. Because elders, like children, carry a truth that middle life often forgets. Children have just arrived from mystery. Elders prepare to return to it. She stands in the middle, yet her heart leans toward both ends. This is why she finds kinship at those edges of life. She feels the soul most clearly where the ego is quiet, where the world's noise hasn't yet arrived, or has finally fallen away. It reminds her who she is. It reminds her where she is headed. It reminds her that life's meaning is not in climbing endlessly, but in remembering. And this remembering awakens another hunger in her, not just for innocence or wisdom, but for what lies beyond both. A spiritual thirst that nothing worldly can quench. For many, spirituality is a response to fear. Fear of death, fear of emptiness, fear of being alone. But for the woman with an old soul, it is different. Her hunger for the sacred is not born of crisis. It rises naturally, like a plant turning toward light. She is drawn to what cannot be seen, to what hums beneath appearances, to the invisible structure that holds the visible world together. Carl Jung once wrote that intuition is the soul's direct line to mystery, and she lives close to that line. She doesn't need dogma to tell her what is real. She feels it. Religious rules feel too small for her vision. Rigid doctrines cannot contain what she knows in her heart. But she respects traditions. She studies them. Christian mystics, Buddhist meditation, indigenous wisdom, Jungian psychology as a spiritual path. She gathers what speaks to her soul, not as collector, but as weaver. She threads together her own tapestry of truth. For her, spirituality is not escape, not a Sunday ritual. It is life itself. Every breath, every conversation, every loss, every joy, all of it becomes practice. A shared meal feels like communion. A moment of silence feels like prayer. Even grief becomes initiation. This orientation doesn't make her grim, quite the opposite. It fills her with a joy that shines in small, ordinary things. A morning light across the floor. A kind word at the right time. The beauty of being alive, fragile and fleeting, yet full of wonder. Her spiritual thirst is not a craving she can satisfy once and for all. It is a constant turning, a steady reaching, an endless journey. And because she drinks from that invisible well, she carries a presence that others notice instantly, especially in her eyes. Eyes that reveal what she has seen, what she has integrated, what she can never unknow. Look into her eyes, and you'll understand. There is something there that cannot be faked. Depth, weight, a kind of knowing that no book could give. It's not about beauty, not about color. It's the story behind them. The way they seem to hold both light and shadow, both ache and peace. Carl Jung said the eyes reveal not just the personality, but the self, that deeper center of consciousness that stretches beyond the ego. And in her gaze, that self shines through. When you meet her eyes, you feel seen. Not just your mask, not just the version of yourself you present to the world, but your truth, your shadow, your longing. It can be comforting. It can also be unsettling, because being seen at that depth is rare, and not everyone is ready for it. Her gaze doesn't judge. It simply witnesses. It says, "I see all of you, and I will not turn away." People often confess things to her without knowing why. They sense she won't dismiss them, that she has already traveled through her own darkness and will not flinch at theirs. When two old souls meet, sometimes words are unnecessary. A glance is enough, a moment of recognition, a silent, "Ah, you too." The loneliness eases, if only for a breath. Her eyes also reveal the work she has done, facing her shadow. She has confronted her own cruelty, her own fear, her own hardness. And out of that came gentleness. Out of that came compassion. This is why her gaze carries paradox, soft yet unshakable, kind yet piercing, warm yet impossibly deep. Her eyes remind you of something you've forgotten, that you too carry ancient wisdom inside, that you too are more than the masks you wear. And as her gaze pierces, another gift rises to the surface, a knowing that bypasses reason, a compass inside her chest, called intuition. She knows before she knows why. It isn't guessing, it isn't wishful thinking. It is the quiet voice of intuition. Carl Jung described intuition as one of the 4 functions of consciousness, the one that perceives possibilities beyond what the eyes can see or logic can explain. And in her, this function is alive. It guides, it warns, it whispers truths that reason cannot yet reach. She can sense when someone is lying, even when their words sound right. She can feel when a situation is wrong, long before facts confirm it. Her body tells her, her spirit nudges her, and she has learned again and again that ignoring this voice leads only to regret. In a world that worships proof, this can be isolating. People call her irrational, too mystical, too sensitive. But time proves her right more often than not. Her intuition points her toward growth. It tells her when it's time to leave a relationship, when a job has reached its end, when she must step into something new, even if the path is unclear. At first she doubted it, tried to silence it, tried to follow the world's logic instead. But each time she betrayed her intuition, the cost was heavy. And so she began to trust. Now she listens, even when it doesn't make sense, even when others don't understand. She knows the voice within is wiser than the noise outside. This gift is not about predicting the future. It is about living attuned to the deeper currents beneath reality, currents that move before they surface, currents that guide the soul where it needs to go. Her intuition is her compass. It doesn't shout, it doesn't argue, it simply knows. And because she honors this inner knowing, she sees people differently. She reads not just what they say, but what they hide. She sees beneath the masks, into the motives, into the shadow. Most people wear masks. They smile while hiding sorrow. They talk while concealing fear. They present what the world will accept, not what is true. And most of the time, no one notices. But she does, because she has faced her own shadow. She has confronted the parts of herself she once wanted to deny, her anger, her jealousy, her cruelty, her pain. Instead of burying them, she brought them to light. She made peace with them. And this inner work gave her new sight. Now, when she looks at others, she sees more than surface. She reads the tremble in a voice, the hesitation in a smile, the truth that lies beneath carefully chosen words. Charm does not fool her. Smooth talk does not blind her. She can feel when energy and intention don't match. Someone may stumble and stutter, yet she sees their genuine heart. Another may dazzle with elegance, yet she senses the emptiness behind it. This clarity protects her. She is not easily manipulated, not easily seduced by appearances, because she sees what is real. But this gift is double-edged. It also brings loneliness. Most social exchanges live on the surface: small talk, pleasantries, polite masks. For her, those moments feel empty, exhausting. She yearns for depth, for conversations where masks drop, for connections where both souls stand bare, without pretense. And because such encounters are rare, she often walks the world feeling apart. Not superior, not arrogant, just unable to pretend she doesn't see. Yet, instead of judging, she grows more compassionate. She understands that most people hide because they are wounded, that behind every defense is a longing to be loved, that behind every mask is a child that once felt unsafe. So she does not condemn, she simply sees. And in her seeing, she offers something rare: acceptance without illusion. This is her gift, and her burden. To see beyond the mask, to love the soul beneath. 12 signs, 12 windows into the life of the old soul woman. But let's be clear, these are not medals to collect, not goals to chase, not proof of superiority. They are simply what is. Natural expressions of a soul that remembers more than one lifetime could hold. Patterns that bloom, like flowers from ancient roots. And if you recognized yourself in her story, even in fragments, then you already know. You've felt it. The hunger that nothing material can satisfy. The calm that steadies you when others fall apart. The ache of compassion that sometimes feels too heavy. The pull toward mystery you can't explain. It's not an accident. It's not imagination. It's the mark of the old soul within you. Carl Jung reminded us, once awareness dawns, you cannot return to unconsciousness. Once you see, you cannot unsee. Once you know, you cannot unknow. That is the gift, and that is the responsibility. To walk with integrity. To carry your vision, even when others don't understand. To live from the deep truth inside you, not for applause, not for approval, but because it is who you are. The path of the old soul is not always easy. It can be lonely. It can be misunderstood. But it is never meaningless. Because the world needs you. It needs your depth in times of shallowness, your compassion in times of division, your stillness in times of chaos, your vision in times of blindness. And most of all, it needs your reminder that there is more. More than the rush, more than the noise, more than what we're told to what. So if you feel that ancient resonance inside you, don't ignore it. Honor it. Live it. Share it. Because you are not alone. Others walk this path too. And when old souls recognize each other, something beautiful happens. The loneliness eases, the burden lightens, and the wisdom grows stronger. So walk gently, walk bravely, walk true. And remember, your ancient knowing is not just yours to carry. It is a gift to the world.